Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to a special edition of the show. This is kind of like a I wouldn't say spur of the moment show, but it's a show that I've been brewing in my head for a while. And I was thinking, well, who's the right guy to kind of help me along in this conversation? And I was thinking, Dave LaGreca and I've been talking about doing something else together. And Dave's an old New Jersey boy. I'm a New York boy, and I've been wanting to do a show talking about what it was like growing up in the New York, New Jersey area as a young hard rocker metal fan, what that was like, and how we found our music, how we shared our music, where we went to buy our music, listen to our music, all that stuff. So once again, Dave LaGreca from Busted Open Radio on SiriusXM. What's happening, Dave?
Man, thank you so much. I always love it when I get the call to come on with you. So I'm really looking forward to the topic
Yeah, it's
tonight.
been a little while, right? But I try to squeeze Dave on here whenever I possibly can because I love listening to his radio show, and he listens to and watches SOT all the time, and we really like working together. And Dave and I have hung out personally in real time, not on Zoom, on a number of occasions, and we always like being each other's company and throwing stuff off each
And
other.
you've been on Busted Open before with Tommy Dreamer and Mickey James. So like you're kind of my go-to guy when we're talking music on Busted Open as well. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I love coming up Busted Open because again, it's like a different it's this is the music venue, that's the wrestling venue, and sometimes those venues can kind of mingle,
Absolutely.
which is cool. So yeah, so Dave is from New Jersey originally. Everybody knows I'm from the Hudson Valley, originally born in Brooklyn, and growing up in our areas, I'm sure it was a little bit different as far as how we discovered music and bands that we liked, how we bought music. So, Dave, maybe you could take us back a little bit to when you first discovered that all of a sudden you liked maybe hard and heavy music or music in general. And where did you discover that? And how did it kind of take over you? And where did you kind of go from there?
Well, a couple things. I have an older brother. So having an older sibling is always going to help when it comes to music because you're just gonna be around it. So that
And
was
I
a big.
was that guy to my younger brother. So, yeah.
There you go. So you understand. But probably the biggest thing would be Kiss. And when I say Kiss is going into the school year in elementary school in 1977, everybody on the playground had to have a Kiss Destroyer iron-on t-shirt. And I remember asking my mom, she was going to the dry cleaners. If you remember, they used to sell the iron-ons at
Yes.
the dry cleaners. And I remember her getting me a Kiss Destroyer iron on a baby blue t-shirt. And because I just wanted to be like the cool kids at school. And that really got me into buying the Kiss albums. And my mom gave me $10, said, buy whatever you want at Sears one day. And I bought my first Kiss album, which I still have, by the way, in my Kiss collection. So for me, it was Kiss because the makeup and the theatrics and everything with that just it was just a perfect fit for somebody who was in grade school.
Did you find that a lot of your classmates were also into Kiss, or was that kind of like your own little secret thing?
No, I think everybody was at that time. Like everybody was into Kiss. It's funny, Pete, that you say that because the grade school kids were into Kiss, but as I found out, the high school kids weren't into
No,
Kiss.
of course not.
So as I got older, it was like kind of like the uncool thing was to be in Kiss, but I loved it. Those early years, like I said, 77, 78, those 2 years, especially, like Kiss was like the hottest band. Seriously.
See, I had here in the Hudson Valley. I don't remember being exposed to Kiss. Like I don't remember seeing Kiss in the record stores. I wasn't buying magazines yet because I got exposed to Kiss in '76, right? So I was 10 years old, and it wasn't until, and I've told this story on the channel before, but it's a great one. My brother and myself and my parents went to they were really good friends with a couple who lived in the same town, who had a daughter who was a few years older than me. I think she was maybe 15 at the time. I was like 10. And we went over there for dinner, and then after dinner she said to my brother and I, it's like, oh, you want to come hang out in my room? I got this great new album that you might be interested in hearing. And meanwhile, yeah, I was 10 years old. I didn't know albums yet. I mean, I had
Yep.
some 45s and things, but I was mostly, we listened to AM radio in the house all the time. I love pop music and rock music, but I didn't really latch onto any bands yet. So we went up to her room and she put on Kiss Alive. And it was the first time I ever heard anything like that before. And I remember looking at the vinyl and
Yep.
the costumes and the makeup. And I, as a little kid, I was already into like superheroes. I was an avid comic book collector. I love monster movies and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, this is like amazing. And I immediately had to explore this band even further. And I remember like telling my parents about it, and they're like, Kiss, what the hell is that? I remember we showed them the album. They were like, oh, what is this crap, right? But I saved up my allowance money, and about a month later, I went out to the store to buy that album. But because it was a double album, Dave, it was too expensive.
Too expensive.
So I wound up getting Destroyer, because that was the new album that came out at the time, and it was like at $3.99 or something like that, whatever. So I had my couple dollar bills or whatever, and I came home with Destroyer. So that was my first actual purchase, and I think I got it at like, maybe White's department store, which I think was before Caldor's in Middletown, I guess. I don't remember exactly where I got it from, but and that was another thing. Where did you buy music back then in Jersey?
Well, it's funny because you just mentioned Kiss Alive. Even to this day, because that was probably the first like real rock album I ever listened to. Before that, it's like Peter Pan records and Puff the Magic Dragon, stuff like that was like, that's what I lit on my Mickey Mouse record player.
Of course.
Like that was the first real like rock album. So even to this day, Pete, like when I open it, you mentioned the gatefold, and I kind of got like goosebumps when you said that. Even to this day, when I open the gatefold to that first Kiss Alive album, it brings me back to when I was 9 years old. Like it just brings me back to that moment. Music, by the way, is the only thing that could do that. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think you remember your first album kind of like you remember your first kiss, your first girlfriend, kiss. I mean, literally kiss of a woman, right? Or a man, whatever. But yeah, it's like you never forget that, right? And I don't own it anymore. I don't own the original vinyl that I had, but I remember like when I finally got rid of my vinyl collection, how beat up it was and everything like that. But it was still pretty special, and it came with all the stuff, the inserts and all that cool stuff, because Kiss had these great albums, the double albums especially. So yeah, it's what did you as far as like buying music down in your neck of the woods in Bergen County, New Jersey, like where did you go to buy records like back then?
Well, Sears had a record department. Two Guys in Garfield, New Jersey had a record. But then as I got a little bit older and started getting into more of like the imports and things like that, and other like hard rock and metal bands, Record Town at the Garden State Plaza always had like import albums. There was a stationery store in the town where I grew up, and he would order special, like any albums that I wanted. If he didn't have it on the rack, he would order it for me. And that's when I really started getting into like Black Sabbath and AC/DC. Was if I gave him a name of an album, he would order it special for me. So, yeah.
Back in the day when the stationery stores had everything, you get your newspapers, you get your candy, you get your comic books, you get your magazines, you get your albums, you get books. I mean, they had everything. They had food, all sorts of stuff, right?
No, Pete, the Uncle Tony Stationery in Hawthorne, New Jersey, which is still there, different owners. I would go in there, buy my records and my wrestling magazines. And like you said, candy and soda, like you said, everything was there. So and then as I got into high school, there's a store still there in Elmwood Park, New Jersey called Music Unlimited. And that same thing, he had bootleg VHS tapes of concerts. So those were the places that I would go to buy music.
Yeah, around here, I mean, it was tough here in the Hudson Valley because up until like probably like 84 or so, I don't think we had any like small independently owned record shops that I remember anyway. But I remember like department stores, like you mentioned, Sears. We had a store called Lloyd's. I don't know if you ever remember Lloyd's.
No.
That was big around here. It was all over the Hudson Valley. We had, like I said, White's, which eventually became Caldor's. We had James Way. That's really where you got records. But it wasn't until I think, I don't know exactly, 1980 or 81, that we have the Orange Plaza Mall opened up at some point, and a store called Record World opened up in there, and another store called Book and Record. And it was a 2-level mall. So you had a basement and you had the upstairs. So you had Book and
Nice.
Record was upstairs and Record World was downstairs. And that's really, I think, for me, the first time that I actually started perusing on my own anyway in record stores, other than going to like J&R Music in New York City, which was right around the corner from where my father worked because he commuted to the city every day. So occasionally we would go there and I'd buy some stuff there. But yeah, having something local was pretty cool. You know, I don't know about you, but David, the parents used to drop us off like on a Friday night. So what are we doing tonight? With all the buddies and everything like that. Oh, let's go to the mall. So the parents would drop us off at the mall like at 6 o'clock. We go have a slice of pizza or two, and then we walk around the mall for 2 hours or 3 hours till it closed, and we go hang out in the record shops. And
That was the life of like a preteen, right? That was your life. Like you would go get a slice of pizza in the food court, and then you would just go to the record store and you wouldn't go to Sam Goody. You wouldn't go Sam Goody. You wouldn't go to. That was for like the posers. You would go to Record Town, because Record Town had all the Maiden albums and the imports and all, and the was it the Nemco like Sabbath albums and all that stuff. So you would go to Record World, and like all the pop fans would go to Sam Goody, the frauds.
Yeah, they were just looking for whatever's popular, right?
Yeah,
wanted to find all the cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned Black Sabbath. What was the first Black Sabbath album you ever bought?
The first one was at Uncle Tony's. I bought Black Sabbath Paranoid. And then I remember in the 6th grade for Christmas, my parents bought me an actual like real stereo. I had never had like a real stereo. I would use just a portable record player. They bought me a stereo, and then they bought me the import versions. I can only thank my brother. My brother must have been the influence of the first Black Sabbath album. And I just remember just the feeling of opening up the gatefold of the first Black Sabbath album, and had the upside down cross with the poem inside. Yep. And then later on We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll. And I remember opening up that gatefold and actually being scared, like opening it up. And I actually got like jump scared by seeing the woman in the coffin. Like, yeah, those early Black Sabbath albums, those import Black Sabbath albums, major influence over like my early like preteens. Them and Kiss were probably the two most influential bands that got me. They were like kind of like my starter drug into like a whole new world of music.
Yeah, it was the same for me. It was Kiss first, and then it was Black Sabbath, probably about 1979. And I was, the Kiss thing was a couple of years. Black Sabbath I still like Kiss a lot, but I mean, Black Sabbath changed my life, really changed my life. And it was Paranoid for me.
Yeah.
I think, and what's interesting, you look at like how we listen to music today, Dave, and how we listened to it back then. Do you remember the day where you would like put on an album in your room and you would just sit in front of the album and just listen to it?
Yep.
Start to finish and do nothing else.
No, I remember just like sitting like cross-legged on the floor.
Yep.
Putting the record on and just staring at the album cover, looking like I knew everything, like all the credits and who the producers were and like all that stuff, like just embedded in my brain. And then just studying the album cover. And that was just, those are great moments that I can't do now, Pete. Like I just, as an adult and time, the way that it is, I consume albums now usually in the car or going for a jog or at the gym. Yeah. Like I don't remember the last time like I sat in my room and just leaned back and like listened to an album from start to finish. Yeah,
it's hard. Yeah, we just don't have that time anymore, which is but back then we made the time, right? And like I remember, we had no internet back then, obviously. So finding out about stuff usually was like word of mouth or magazines, right? But I can't tell you how many times I'd be at school and one of my buddies would be like, "Oh, I picked up this album in the import section of Record World over the weekend. What are you doing after school today? You want to come over and listen to it?" It's like, all right, let me go grab the phone. Let me go to the pay phone and call my parents and tell them I'm going to take the bus over. And then we go and and they would have like the new Queensryche EP, or they'd have Accept, Restless and Wild, or the first Motley Crue album or something like that. And that's how you found out about stuff, right? Everybody bought things and took chances on things, and maybe you read an article in a Hit Parader magazine or Cream or something.
Yep.
But we many times growing up around here, we would go to over at each other's houses, after school and stuff, and that we'd play records. That's what we did, and
It
we
was
talk
it
about
was
it.
great. And I remember, like I mentioned, Uncle Tony's before, the owner, Tony, the owner of the stationery, because he knew that me and a group of friends were into hard rock and metal, knew what bands we like. So if a new release was coming out, he would buy a bunch of copies of that album. And Pete, I remember Kiss Unmasked, us going into Uncle Tony's, me and my friends, and he had a rack full of Kiss Unmasked, and he's like, guys, I got the new Kiss album. By that point, we were over Kiss, and we're like, we don't want that, and he's like, what are you talking about? I ordered these albums for you. And I just remember weeks afterwards, not one album was taken from that rack. Like nobody was buying Kiss Unmasked. And I remember he would always give me flack about it. He's like, I ordered these damn records for you, and now you kids don't want them. It's like, what's wrong with you? But it's like, yeah, man, we're over it. We're over that. We're over Kiss.
It happens pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you got drunk to an album?
Oh, I sure do. The first album I got, like, really that memorably drunk was with my brother, and it was Slayer, Rain and Blood. I just remember, so that was 86. So that was my sophomore year in high school when Rain and Blood came out. So yeah, it's funny to this day, whenever I see the cover of Rain and Blood, I get that like mild headache because I remember, the hangover the next day from drinking too much, listening to that album. That's one of those first listens of an album that you remember, because I remember sitting with my brother. It was the first time listening to Rain and Blood, and how that album grabbed me, and how, like, you talk about influential albums. My God, like, just that is, one of the greatest albums of all time. And I just remember instantly falling in love with that album the first time I heard it.
Yeah, and it's always great when you can kind of like tie back first time hearing a classic album with like a cool event in your life, right? Or something that you'll never forget. Yeah. I mean, for me, the first time I ever got drunk to music was the first time I ever got drunk in my life. And I was 15 years old, and me and all my buddies, we planned this very carefully, Dave. There was a half day of school coming up for something, parent teacher conference or some bullshit like that. And it was in the springtime, and we planned, I don't know how we did, because we were all really underage. We planned to get a keg of beer, and it was Genesee Cream Ale. We found someone who had a fake ID to get us a keg. We brought the keg to my friend's house, and we basically, it's the weirdest, the things you do when you're like 15 years old. He had an in-ground pool that was completely empty. So we brought the keg down into the pool. We had a boom box. I think that day we listened to British Steel, Master Reality by Black Sabbath, and a couple other things. I think the second Killers by Maiden, right? And there was like 5 of us. We just sat there drinking Jenny Cream for like 2 hours. We had never drank before. We got completely hammered. We went just frolicking all over the place around the property and stuff like that. And I remember specifically, like, then it was time to go home. And I remember my one buddy, he was staying over my house. We walked the 3 miles back to my house. And I remember us just like waltzing around town in Goshen, New York, and just like drunk as shit, just singing and laughing at everything.
Amazing.
And by the time you got home, we were like sober already. Because, when you really think about it, like we probably didn't drink all that much.
Probably not.
No, but we had all that beer left. So
the music is the soundtrack of it, though. You're always going to remember those albums that you were listening to, because again, it's like pages in a scrapbook when you listen to music. It really is.
Yeah, and I think it's especially true when you're growing up. You have all those soundtracks and those memories, and we did this and we were listening to this. We went here and we were listening to this. I mean, you and I talked once before about Action Park. The old days where Action Park was down in New Jersey, up right by the border of New York and New Jersey. I mean, I remember us going down there back in the 80s, and just, we'd bring cases of beer down there. We'd be cranking the tunes before we go in. You go in, everybody's just like, it's just nuts, right? You're on these rides that aren't safe. Everybody's wasted, and you're just like, everybody's walking around with the boom boxes, and it's like, that's what we did. You had, it wasn't New York City.
That was life.
Things to do, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, the one thing that was great about Action Park was that you could hang out in the parking lot there. And I live a mile from where Action Park was. It's still a water park. It's just not, Action Park anymore. You could like almost was like going to a concert and tailgating.
Yeah.
Like you could hang out in the parking lot and there was nobody there to bother you. Then when you went to the park itself, pretty much it was all high school kids that were running everything that was going on in the park. So they could care less.
Yeah.
So it's just like, but it's funny. You look back at it now and you're like, man, that was crazy. But at the time it just felt normal and it felt like the way it should be.
Do you remember how did you feel the first time you heard that they like made a documentary about this place? Because I had forgotten all about Action Park. Then all of a sudden it's got this like notorious history. And I'm like, God, I was there all the time. And back then we didn't think twice about it. We just knew it was a cool place to go, listen to tunes, hang out with your friends, get drunk, and go on some rides, maybe pick up some chicks or whatever. I mean, that's what it was all about.
I think it's like more of like the younger generation looks at it now and says, oh my God. It's kind of like, some of the games we played when we were kids. Like, like you didn't know that it was dangerous at the time. Like kabangers, like these really heavy balls that you would bang. Yeah. Like you could kill somebody with that thing if you hit it with them, or the spikes that you would throw into the air and try to land in a circle. Like it had the metal spike at the end, so it would stick in the dirt.
You got someone's eye with that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but you didn't think that it was dangerous while you were doing it. That was just the way that it was. And it was like, I remember at Action Park, I almost drowned in the wave pool because you could be in the wave pool and like me and my friends would try to swim to the wall.
The wall, remember that? All the way
and that's so like you had to hit and like we get tossed around. And I remember one time I almost drowned and I came out of that and I was kind of like, I gave myself like a minute or two to get my breath, and then I jumped right back in again. Like that's just like it's just what you did, But I think it's more of like the younger generation looks how crazy we were. Like how did you get so crazy? How did they let you be so crazy? But for us, it was just life as a teenager.
Yeah, how did they let you be? We just were, right? We just did. There was. Back then there was almost like no repercussions for anything. It's like you just did what you did and everything was just have fun. And the times have really changed, but that's around here. And I think I'm sure it wasn't all that much different down in Jersey, but here you had to make your own fun. There wasn't a lot to do for kids around here. That's why we went out into the woods with boom boxes and 12 packs of beers. That's why we, walked to the mall, and that's why we went to roller skating rinks, and that's why we went to the movies and, snuck booze into the movies. And it just, you had to, maybe we had an arcade or two here and there, but if you weren't really into video games, that didn't really matter much. And I think for me, until I got the bug to start going to like concerts, you had to just go find places to hang out. And, thankfully we didn't have a really robust concert scene here in the Hudson Valley, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. What was the first time you felt like you really wanted to go see a band live?
It was Kiss. It was Kiss. Probably the Asylum tour was like the first time I was like, all right, that's a concert I have to go to. Cause I remember buying that cassette the first day that it came out. And it wasn't until the videos for that album came out that it became uncool. But that album was hot. And that's for me, Pete. And then once I got a little bit older, the club scene was where I would go. But the Holy Grail was the Brendan Byrne Arena. So that was like, it seemed like every month they would run a metal show every month.
Yeah.
So, it would be Ozzy one month, it would be Judas Priest another month. Like it was the Brendan Byrne Arena. And so that was always my first concert experiences was going to the Brendan Byrne Arena. To me, that was my Madison Square Garden, was that arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey, because the city my parents was like, my parents would never go into New York City. So like that was like the evil place was New York. Like once you went over that bridge or through that tunnel, all bets are off.
All
Like my
bets are
parents were like, "You're not going there." So if I said I was going to Madison Square Garden, no way, you're not going to the Garden. Oh, you going to the Meadowlands? Yeah, I'll drop you off. Like, well, I'll give you a ride. I'll drop you off. Like it was perfectly fine because it was in Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, I practically lived at the Brendan Byrne Arena or the Mid Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie. I mean, those are the two places that I went to all the time. And you were absolutely right, man. At the Byrne, Priest, Maiden, Dio, Sabbath, Van Halen, Motley Crue, Ozzy. I mean, Triumph, Rush. They were there. It's every month. If
Every month there was another hard rock metal concert at Brendan Byrne.
so, how far of a drive was that for you?
10 minutes.
Jesus, wow. That's a no brainer, right? That's a
Yeah,
total
it was right there, and obviously with wrestling too. That was the arena that I went to see wrestling. I would never go to the Garden. I would go to the Meadowlands. Yeah, it was 10 minutes from my house. So my dad would give me a ride to the box office, and I buy tickets for wrestling or for a concert. And then you had Ticketrons. That's the other thing too. That's like obviously
yeah.
gone. I'm the William Patterson College Rec Center in Wayne. That's where we would wait online. We get there either the night before or really early that morning when tickets would go on sale, and we'd wait online for tickets.
Whatever the weather was, right?
Yep.
We had our Ticketron was at Sears in the Orange Plaza Mall. And yeah, you'd get there like it's depending on the band, but you get there the night before or really early in the morning, rain or shine, cold or hot, and there would be all these people, and there was no guarantee you'd get a ticket because
Nope.
every outlet had only X amount of tickets that they could actually sell, and that's crazy. I mean, there were a couple of instances I remember, like in oh boy, I guess it was 81 or 82. Whenever Styx released Paradise Theater, I know it was probably 80 or 81 actually. My father had agreed to take me to go see Styx at the Meadowlands, and because I was still too young to drive, so he's like, all right, he goes, let's go to Ticketron and let's go get tickets on a Saturday morning. So we went to Sears, waited online. By the time we got all the way up to the ticket window, the person before us bought the last tickets they had available.
Wow.
So we didn't get to go. And we had a similar situation happen with Kiss on the Dynasty tour as well. So I never got to see Kiss or Styx back then. I saw Kiss on the Animalized tour. That was the first time I saw them, but without the makeup. But yeah, you waited online to get tickets. There was none of this Ticketmaster online thing, and it was a crapshoot. So you could go spend all those hours there and come away with nothing. In most cases, you got them, but and tickets were cheap, right? $10,
Yeah.
$12, $8, depending on who you were seeing and where you saw them. But yeah, I always thought the Meadowlands was a really good place. I thought the sound was good. No matter where you sat, it was a good seat. It was big, but now what is it, 15,000? I think that holds or something like that.
Now, I remember for wrestling, it would hold 23,000.
20. Oh, because of the floor.
Wrestling. Yeah, because they purposely made it bigger. That was their whole mindset, was they wanted to make it like the biggest indoor arena. So it fit like that would fit a lot of people. I missed that place because like you said, obviously it aged. There's arenas that are much more comfortable.
Yeah.
But the one thing about that arena I always thought was the best than any other arena I've been to was the sound. Like it was the perfect, like I think they had to put thought into that when they made that arena, especially with as high as that ceiling was, that they really did it for the sound purposes.
Yeah,
concerts.
I always thought it sounded really good in there. And it was also cool going to the Brendan Byrne. Like if you were into buying the band shirts, you always had people out in the parking lot selling like the cheap shirts, no matter where you went, they were out there. And you tailgate, and like until we were old enough to drive, our parents would drop us off, and then they would go wherever. I don't know, they go to the mall or do something, and then he'd pick us up at like 11 o'clock. But when we were driving, we would drink the whole way down. We get there, we tailgate, we go in and have a blast. And it was just like, you live to go to that next concert. And sometimes I went to 2 or 3 or 4 a month. I mean, it's It's what we did back then. There's nothing else.
I went to, it's funny, I went to the last ever wrestling event at that arena, and I went to the last metal concert at that arena, which was Judas Priest with Steel Panther opening up. It was like one of the like tribute shows to Defenders of the Faith. It was like the anniversary of the release.
Oh,
of
yeah, yeah.
Defenders of the Faith.
Yeah, so that was probably what, 2004 or something like that.
Yeah. And it was no, it was I want to say it was 2014.
Okay, so that would make sense. So that's 30 years. Yep. Okay. Yep.
So me and my buddy just got smashed in the arena. We had then security like had to come up and tell us to leave because we didn't want to leave. You know, we wanted to stay, and that was like I had that a couple of times. I had that with Kiss with their final what was supposed to be their final tour. You know, was it now 23 years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
Same thing. I paid, you know, out the nose for tickets, thinking it was going to be their last ever show, and obviously they're still on their farewell tour now.
Yeah. Did you ever feel though not going to the Garden much? Did you ever feel like you were missing out? Like that's really where you should have been at the Garden?
Not so much with concerts, but definitely with wrestling.
Yeah.
Like wrestling, I always felt like I was kind of missing out on something by not going to the Garden. And it wasn't until I got my driver's license that I finally started going to wrestling and concerts at the Garden.
Yeah, the Garden's kind of a special place, and I'm not saying it sounded any better than at Nassau Coliseum or at Brendan Byrne Arena, but there's something about going to the Garden for a show. I think to me, all these years later, it doesn't really matter that much anymore. But back then, like in the '80s, that was kind of special. I mean, I saw a lot of bands at the Garden back then, and that was kind of cool. Also going to like Radio City Music Hall. I saw Iron Maiden on Power Slave Tour at Radio City. That was pretty wild. You know, the first time ever at Radio City for a concert. So yeah, but around here, you know, we had the Chance, you know, but I didn't start going to the Chance till I was of age, 21. So that was probably like, you know, 1987 or so, or 1986. I think I was getting in there a little bit early, but we had the Mid Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie, which is like a small little, it's like a 2,000 seat auditorium. Looks like a gymnasium kind of. And everybody played there. I saw Dio there. I saw Maiden there. I saw Metallica there. I saw Wasp there. I mean, you name them, I saw them. Everybody came there. Blue Oyster Cult played there. I mean, everybody. And that was cool because it's a little more intimate, you know, and in my older age, I like the intimate stuff now. I don't like stadium shows anymore.
It's almost like you're not there when you go to a stadium show. I remember my brother was a DJ in college for, you know, Ramapo College in Mahwah, New Jersey. So, you know, he would go to a lot of metal shows and he would take me. And there was a club in New Rochelle, Streets in New Rochelle,
Streets,
New York.
Yeah.
And like it was 21 to drink, but you can get in 17. So when I turned 17, that was like kind of like the first club experience in this area was going to Streets back in the day. So you know, Dark Angel, Death, Suicidal Tendencies. Like I saw all those bands at Streets.
Yeah, Streets is a cool place. I mean, that's a good thing. We had lots of cool clubs. I mean, did you go? I mean, the one thing I think that Jersey had a little bit more of than here in the Hudson Valley in New York is you had a very vibrant, like hard rock and metal club scene. A lot of local bands. I mean, did you go check out a lot of like the bands and the local bands? So many of them.
Mothers in Wayne. As a matter of fact, there's a train station in Wayne, and it's where Mothers used to be, and they call it the Mothers train station because it was kind of like a local landmark. And you know, seeing so many bands at Mothers, Wild Mike's in Lodi, New Jersey was another place. Like there, you're right. There was like especially like in my later teen years, a lot of like local bands, club bands. And those little local rock clubs were very popular, like in the mid to late 80s.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even some of the few that were around here, you know, you had bands like Rat Race Choir played all the little places around here. And, you know, I guess being New York and New Jersey kids, we had the luxury of being able to see Twisted Sister really early on in their career. They played all the clubs in New York and Jersey and Long Island, like all the time. See,
for me, it was kind of, I'm, you know, obviously by the time I was of age. Twisted Sister was already
Already
big,
big.
but I got to see, White Lion, Extreme, like a lot of those bands, like just before they hit it, were very big on the Jersey club scene.
How about a Skid Row too, I would imagine, right?
Skid Row, yep, Skid Row as well, yep. And
Yeah.
then the Birch Hill nightclub,
Oh,
man. That
Birch Hill
was,
for sure. Right?
dude,
Great.
the Birch Hill was, I mean, my God, the amount of bands I saw at the Birch Hill, incredible. I mean, that place was a landmark. And then you would go to the record store, which was not far from the Birch Hill. Vintage Vinyl was not far off from where the Birch Hill was. So, man, those are great memories going to that place.
Yeah, I only made it to Birch Hill a couple of times, and when I really started to get used to going there, then they were gone. There was no more. So now when I go down to concerts in Jersey, I basically go down to Starland Ballroom.
Yeah,
Which is, is what it is. It's okay, I guess.
yeah.
It's a weird place. It's not easy to get to, but it's whatever. Everybody plays there.
Everybody plays there, and there's just not many of them anymore. It just I think it's got to be very tough for these younger bands to get the word out, because I don't know if this younger generation enjoys watching live music like we did when we were younger.
Yeah, I get the impression they don't, and that's kind of sad when you see these bands, and because nowadays making money, making music is hard. So really, any working band has to go out on the road, and they got to play, they got to sell merch, and that's how they make their money. And if you're an up and coming band, you can only draw 30 people to a show. That's not going to pay the bills, right?
Yeah, but they were everywhere. And Hoboken, when I first started going to Hoboken when I was like 17, 18, there was a lot of clubs in Hoboken that had live music. I haven't even gotten to Hoboken in years, so I don't even know if they're still there or not. But yeah,
Hoboken was a very cool town way back when.
yep,
Yeah,
it
I
was
haven't
great.
been there in a long time either. Do you remember Rock and Roll Heaven? Did you ever go there?
Yep, I remember Rock and Roll Heaven, absolutely. Rock and Roll Heaven, and that reminds me of like going to the Village and going to all those record shops in the Village, which I'm sure you did too.
Baker Bob's and
Uh,
all those places.
Bleecker Bob's, like that. Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of
amazing.
great record shops in New York City. A lot of them. Yeah, I miss those days. I miss Dave going. One of my favorite things to do, like in the probably like late 80s and most of the 90s, was go to Tower Records. And I didn't care if it was Tower Records in Paramus. I didn't care if it was Tower Records in Nanuet, Tower Records in the Village or Uptown. I didn't care. I just loved Tower Records. I could spend hours in Tower Records, and then they were gone.
Yeah, the Tower Records I went to, again, it was probably about 7 minutes from my house, was the one on Route 17 in Paramus.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah, that was a really good one. And that, you go up 17, that's where, the Brendan Byrne Arena was. But Tower Records was, you're right. I would spend hours at Tower Records. That was just, wow. And they had a great import
Great
section.
imports, and they had
Tower.
everything by every artist you could think of.
Yep.
That was the cool thing. I mean, whatever music, if you wanted metal, classic rock, prog rock, jazz, they had a great jazz room. I mean, everything, everything. I would never leave a Tower Records without spending like minimum of $100. I would
Oh,
walk stack of shit. Always.
absolutely. You got your paycheck, you cashed out your check, you would go to Tower in Paramus and spend all your money. It was the best. I love it.
Dave, when I was in the early 90s, early mid 90s, I was working for this company, and I would have to travel. Yeah, not a lot, but I traveled a bit, and I would always fly out of Newark Airport. So what I would do is when it was my day to travel to wherever I was going, I would leave extra early. I would stop at the Paramus Tower Records. I'd buy a ton of shit. I'd leave it in the trunk of my car for when I got back from my trip, and I knew I had a whole bag full of goodies to dig into when I got back. There's nothing like it. Nothing like knowing coming back from this damn business trip. You're like, oh, but I got all those records to listen to or CDs. Right? So, yeah.
And Pete, I know I'm kind of getting off track here, but like that's why I just love the physical copy of things. We actually did a show on Busted Open about the decline of just the physical media, because we're talking about back in the day when you go to a wrestling show, you buy the program and it would give you the list of matches and VHS tapes, and then later
VHS
on
DVDs for sure. Yeah.
DVDs, and like just that physical media, like the wrestling magazines. Like even now, like if I can I download it on my phone. I feel like I don't own it. Like it's not mine. Like I feel, because at any point, like YouTube, you could see something on YouTube and you earmark it. A week later, it could be gone. It could be deleted. Like, unless I physically have it, I feel like I don't own it.
You don't have anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, if someone takes it down, it's gone.
It's
Right?
gone.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of wrestling, I remember growing up, like WWE or WWF at the time, they would release these VHS tapes. Here's the Ric Flair set, all these great matches. Here's the Hulk Hogan set, the Macho
Yep.
Man Savage, the Ultimate Warrior. Whoever it was. Here they were even doing it. When Cena was big, The Rock, Stone Cold. And it's like you never hear that anymore because they don't do it, because now all these matches, they got the network, right? Everything's the tape library, all this stuff is online. So it's like, what do you need to put sets out anymore? Because nobody buys that stuff anymore.
Yeah, why would you? And I get it. Listen, it's great because, like, say for Peacock, it's $5.99 a month and you get everything.
Yeah.
Anything you could possibly want, it's right there. I just love having the physical copy of things. And I just feel like just having to be able to hold it in your hand. Like you said, like, no one now is gonna feel what it's like to put that record on for the first time and just like sit and look at that cover of the album. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a lost art. So
It is. Yeah, it is. Which is
we
unfortunate.
sound like old men. I know I say it all the time on Busted Up. I sound like the old man yelling at the clouds, but
Get off my lawn, damn it.
but you know what? But Pete, it's and again, and this is the thing that I feel like is missing right now is, and I'll use a perfect example: Judas Priest Turbo. When I first bought that, I hated it. I remember sitting in my room and listening to it and be like, "Oh my God, they sold out, and I can't believe that they did." But now I own this, right? I own the cassette. So I'm not just going to throw it away. I just spent, $7.99 on this cassette. Like, I'm not just, so I'm going to listen to this cassette until I like it. Like, I'm going to keep listening to it until I finally until there's something about it that I like. But now if you're downloading it or you listen to it one time, you don't like it, that's it, skip.
Yep.
And now you're on to the next thing. Like, you don't let that record breathe a little bit. You don't give it time. Pete, probably some of your favorite albums, there's some that grabbed you immediately, like it did for me with that Slayer album. But then there's some albums that I bet are some of your favorites that it took like 6 or 7 listens before. Right now, you're not giving anything 6 or 7 listens. Like, you're giving it one listen,
hardly anybody,
and then it's out.
Right.
No.
And most people nowadays are like, I gave it a quick listen. It didn't really hit me, so I moved on. I don't need to hear it again. I'll tell you, Dave, the first time I heard Metallica's Kill 'Em All album, I didn't care for it. I didn't really like it much the second time. Third time, all right, this is interesting. All right, now I like it. 8 listens later, I love it. Right? But we had the time to dedicate towards that back then. Everybody I talk to now where this conversation comes up, they're like, yeah, I'm so busy. I don't have the time to give something 8 listens. If it doesn't grab me on the first one, I got to move on to something else. I get it, but you're really not giving that album, that music, a chance, right? Like we used to do.
Pete, it's so funny you mentioned Kill 'Em All because I remember my all-time favorite is Alice Cooper. And I didn't get into Alice Cooper until 1980, like 83, 84, when he was kind of done at that point. But the reason I got into Alice is whenever I would read articles in Circus Magazine or Hit Parader, all the bands would mention Alice Cooper. So I remember going to the Squared Circle in the Garden State Plaza and buying Kill 'Em All just strictly because of the cover, and buying Welcome to My Nightmare by Alice Cooper, totally expecting the Kill 'Em All to be the album that I was taking a chance on buying the Alice Cooper because I really didn't know any Alice Cooper. I was just strictly getting it by name. But everybody was talking about Metallica. And I remember putting Metallica on and honestly not digging it. And then just listening to Welcome to My Nightmare. And then I fell in love with Alice Cooper. But it took like you said, like 3 or 4 listens before I even started to like Metallica Kill 'Em All. Like, it took a while before I started to like it because I got turned on to thrash with Venom. I remember my brother buying At War with Satan. and then listening to At War with Satan, and I instantly liked that album. And then I was like, and then with Metallica, it took a long time. But think about that. If that happened now, I would be missing out on all that great music.
Yeah, you would never give it a chance. You would have moved on
Yeah.
to some other things. Yeah.
Yep.
You know, it's funny about Alice Cooper. This may surprise you, Dave. Do you know I really didn't start listening to Alice Cooper until probably like the late 90s?
You know what?
I don't know why.
I knew that because you said it on an episode of Sea of Tranquility. You mentioned that. You didn't get it. That's crazy to me. But the same thing here. Like, I honestly, here's the mid 80s, and I'm only getting it strictly because like Dee Snider was saying Alice Cooper was an influence, and all these bands were saying Cooper was an influence. I didn't know any Cooper songs. Like, you would think I would have heard like School's Out or No More Mr. I never heard any of those songs. So I thought I got into Alice late by getting him in the mid 80s, but
I knew
yeah.
those songs because I listened to the radio. The local radio station played them all the time, WPDH in Poughkeepsie, but I just never explored the records. And I don't know why, because every other band that I was listening to is Alice is right in that same wheelhouse. It's like I didn't like him. I didn't like the stuff I knew. He was in all the magazines. I just was kind of like, it's like one of those, everybody's got that band or two that you should have gotten into at an early age, and for whatever reason you just never did because you were listening to everything else. But for me, as a guy in the 90s, in my 30s, getting into Alice Cooper really for the first time was pretty cool, right? Even though it should have happened 10, 15 years beforehand. But I guess, better late than never. But yeah, that was the biggest thing. I love telling people that story because I'm like, really? You love Sabbath and Priest and Kiss and all that stuff, and you never listened to Alice Cooper? I'm like, no, I don't know why.
Pete, I don't know if you have it, but if you don't, I highly recommend it. And I don't do a lot of recommending, but I'm going to do this for you. Have you seen the concert, The Nightmare Returns? It's from Alice Cooper's return in '86, his comeback tour, the Constrictor album.
Wasn't that on MTV?
It was on MTV. Yes, it was on MTV. And that's funny you say that, because that really took my fandom to Alice to another level, was that MTV concert. But you could get it on DVD. There's the unedited version of that concert. And I don't think there's any concert that I've seen that brings you back to a time like that concert. And go back and watch it. And when it's over, it has the end credits as people are exiting the arena. And you're hearing like the cherry bombs going off in the background and stuff like that. And like, just if there was any like time capsule of what it was like going to shows in the mid to late 80s, I highly recommend that you get that DVD. Or you know what? I'll just, the next time I see you, I'll let you borrow it.
Okay, that sounds good.
You gotta promise to give it back, because it's
I always give my stuff back. Yeah,
it's like my ultimate souvenir. It's very, very good. I recommend to anybody that's listening and watching now to get that. It really encapsulates what it was like going to an arena concert in the mid 80s.
At that time. That was with Kane Roberts on guitar, right? Yeah.
Kane Roberts on guitar, Kip Winger on bass, Ken Mary on drums. Yeah, it's a great band.
Yeah, that was one of his really good bands at that time.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I remember when that concert ran. I may have seen parts of it over the years. I don't think I ever sat down and watched the whole thing, so I would love to check that out. So
yeah. But it wasn't MTV. It was another thing. There was MTV concerts on Saturday nights.
Yeah. You had MTV concerts early on. You had Don Kirshner's rock concert. You had the Friday night. What was the Friday night show that they played? They always had music. I'm drawing a blank. I don't remember. Something like it.
Is it the show Fridays you're talking about?
Maybe the show Fridays. They had musical acts on there all the time. I remember the time. I remember when Black Sabbath released Born Again, and they came out there and played Zero the Hero on that show. I was like, yes, how cool is that?
Amazing. Love it.
You don't see that stuff anymore, Dave. You don't see it anymore.
So. No, it's a different time out. Listen, you could get more. I'm not hating on now, because everything you want is right at your fingertips.
Yeah.
I'm sure the concert I'm talking about, it's probably on YouTube. Somebody's probably downloaded it on YouTube. So like everything's at your fingertips now. There was just something about saving your money buying it, owning it, and then giving it that life and that chance because you took the time to earn that money to buy it, so you weren't giving up on it so quickly. So
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
yeah.
I do want to mention because it was just the other night. So, we were talking about old venues that we grew up with and spent a lot of hours in. One of the ones that I spent a considerable amount of time in, the Chance in Poughkeepsie, New York, had its last show as the Chance just the other night. So it was Hatebreed played 2 nights in a row there, and I think each night was sold out, I think. So I didn't go. I'm not really a big Hatebreed fan, and I did go see a show with the Chance a couple months ago. I saw Glenn Hughes there. So, but yeah, that's it. So the Chance is gone now. So just one more venue from our childhood that's no more, which is kind of
It's they're going by the wayside, and it's sad. Like those smaller venues, it's hard to keep them operating because the demand's not there. And it's funny, Pete, and I know we've had this discussion before. I never would have thought in my wildest dreams that at 52, which is what I am now, 52, I'm still going to see Alice Cooper and Judas Priest and like these bands that were like, I mean, Kiss. I mean, here we are, we're talking about listening to Kiss when we were 10 years old, and now we're middle-aged men and they're still playing, like it's right. I mean, would you have ever I wouldn't have imagined those bands playing when they were 50, much less like us being in our 50s.
and they're like 70 now or older. It's just like, and we're like, oh my God, it's crazy. Yeah, my brother just got us Iron Maiden tickets for a year from now in Jersey, in Newark. And I'm like, going to see Iron Maiden again. It's like, I've seen them so many times, but they're still playing and we're still paying, right?
Yeah, and I don't know how many times I said to myself, like Judas Priest is a good example. That concert I'm talking about, I was like, yeah, there was like 4,000 people in the building. There was like hardly anybody there. And I'm like, yeah, this is probably going to be the last time for me when I see Judas Priest. And then the next time tickets go on sale, the next tour I buy them.
You're there.
Because now I'm at the point where it's like, now I have to see them because you never know when it's going to end. It could end at any day. So now I never would have thought when I went in 2015 to see Van Halen that was going to be the last time I was going to see Van Halen, but it was the last time I saw Van Halen, So now I'm at the point I have to see these bands because at any moment it could be their last show.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now, right? So we're all getting old, Dave. We're all getting old. And speaking of Priest, before we I have you give us a little update on what's going on with you at Busted Open. I was actually, you mentioned Turbo Lover before and the Turbo album. So yeah, that's an album when it first came out that I really wasn't all that into either. But I will tell you, over the years, I've softened up on it a bit. But man, when you go see Priest live, Turbo Lover is like one of the highlights of the show. And I was listening to SiriusXM the other day, coming back from the gym, and Turbo Lover came on, and I was like, yeah, baby.
I never would have thought that in 1986 when I heard it for the first time. But I agree with you. I probably play Turbo more than any other Judas Priest album. And it's not nearly my favorite, but it's an easy listen. Like it's
a really
instantly gets me in a good mood when I hear it. Like I said,
it's different listening to Turbo or listening to Stay in Class, right? Because one is for one mood, one's for the other, right? Yeah, it's totally.
But if it's summertime, it's 85 degrees and you got your windows down, you're probably not listening to Sad Wings of Destiny. You're probably gonna put on Turbo, right? Like it's like candy. And I definitely have more of an appreciation of that album now than I did when I first heard it.
I think most of us Priest fans have really softened on it a bit. Yeah, it was kind of a hard sell back then. Nowadays we're much older and it's like, it's pretty good actually. It's okay. It's not a big yeah. So Dave, before we let you go, what's new in the world over at Busted Open, man? You got lots of great guests and topics to discuss because there's a lot going on in wrestling right now.
Yeah, I mean, wrestling, especially the WWE, is very, very hot right now. So always stuff to talk about. We're live on SiriusXM, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern time, Monday through Saturday on SiriusXM Fight Nation. It's myself, Tommy Dreamer, Bully Ray, Mickey James, Thunder Rosa, Mark Henry. So you can listen to me and the rotation of all those Hall of Fame hosts Monday through Saturday. But if you're too cheap to get SiriusXM, you can listen to the Busted Open podcast, which is absolutely free. And it's every day. We have new content that drops on the podcast every single day. So, and it's some exclusive content that you don't get on the live show that's available on the podcast. And we just reopened our YouTube channel. Like it was down for over almost 5 years. It was down. We just opened it up a couple of weeks ago and trying to get the word out. That's up and running again. So if you go to YouTube, type in Busted Open, subscribe, hit the notification button so you can always get new, like I do for Sea of Tranquility. I know when there's a new video, I subscribe. So right away on my phone, I get the notification that there's a new video for me to watch. And then go to podswag.com/bustedopen for all the merchandise. We have new merchandise that's coming out for the holidays. So make sure you check that out. And then Pete, and I hope you can come, but coming up in February, speaking of New York, I am going to be doing a show at the Gramercy Theater in Manhattan in February. So I'll keep you updated the date, but I just signed a deal with Live Nation, and hopefully I'll be doing a tour, but my first stop is going to be the Gramercy Theater in Manhattan in February 2024.
Oh, I would love to come to that. Yeah.
Yes.
Let me know on that. That'd be great. Very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to promote that. Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. And folks, if you're at all mildly interested in wrestling at all, make sure, and if you don't have SiriusXM, go to the YouTube channel. Dave's got the video of his great interview with AEW champion MJF, which is awesome. That's a really, really good interview. Lots and lots of fun. There's also some really cool stuff with Dave and Ric Flair, which you should check out. All really entertaining. And Dave, I have to ask you, even though you and Bully already covered it a couple weeks ago on the show, CM Punk, is he WWE bound? What do you think?
I think he's WWE bound.
I think so
too. And if we don't see him in WWE, we'll see him in Impact. But I think there's a much better chance we're going to see him in the WWE.
I think they're going to take a chance on him. I think they will. And I know there was a lot of bad blood there, but I think it's going to happen. You know, time heals all wounds, and it will draw a big pop, I think. So, yeah.
And Survivor Series is in Chicago.
Yeah.
So I think people are expecting CM Punk to be at Survivor Series. I don't know. It's not 100% definitive, but if I was the WWE, I would sign CM Punk.
And if that happened, what would be the first program you would book him in?
I would put him in a program with Cody.
That would be big.
It's funny how the world of pro wrestling is like, I mean, Cody jumping from AEW to WWE, Jade Cargill jumping from AEW to the WWE. It was the other way around a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And now it's the opposite. And everybody's jumping back to the WWE. So it's like crazy times in the world of pro wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. So cool. So everybody go check out Busted Open Radio. Lots of fun stuff happening on there with Dave and his colleagues. It's always a good listen, and it's always great having you back here on Sea of Tranquility, Dave. And I look forward to us doing it again real soon.
Yeah, anytime. I'm always available for you, man. I love Sea of Tranquility. I love Hudson Horror. So thank you for everything that you do, man. You kept me going, as I told you, during the lockdown is when I discovered you. But like as soon as the new album comes out, I go to Sea of Tranquility to get your review. Cool. So I definitely appreciate what you do. Thank you.
That's great to hear. Well, you're very welcome, and thank you, Dave. And you never know. I, from time to time, call into Dave's show on Busted Open, so you never know when I might do that. So I try to surprise Dave when I do that. So you never know. So,
yep.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. If you are from the New York and New Jersey area and you have some fun stories to tell of growing up in this area, being a music fan, whatever kind of music you listen to, places you went to, where you bought your music, general experiences, put them down in the comments below, because that's what it's all about here on SOT, is sharing in our love of music. So take care, everybody. Thanks for watching this special edition of Sea of Tranquility. For Dave LaGreca, I am Pete Pardo. We'll see you all real soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.